Howdy, peeps. You're from the neighborhood. Monomachos here, speaking to you on a lovely but cold but sunny Saturday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's about 15 degrees. Anyway, we got a lot of things on our plate, so let's get right to them. First of all, the bishop's apology. Bishop Athenagoras of Nazianzen, who participated in that consecration, shall we say, of that Hindu temple in New Jersey, is apologized with alacrity, and he didn't delay. We need to accept him at his word and accept his apology in humility on our part, because he is also displaying a humility which is not very characteristic of the bishops in the Greek Archdiocese, unfortunately. We could go on and on, but I think that's the main point here. He realized he made a mistake, and he apologized within a few days. To be honest, I don't know anybody else in the Patriarchate of Constantinople who even has the presence of mind to realize that they make mistakes, much less apologize for them. Certainly, Archbishop Athenagoras of the Greek Archdiocese of America, who is his primate, has never offered an apology for his countless missteps. Nor should we say, for that matter, has his overlord, Patriarch Bartholomew, who has not only scandalized the faithful, he's caused division within the church. And let's be honest, he's brought us to the brink of World War III. I can't say this enough, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I don't think he could have single-handedly stopped the war in the Ukraine, but he at least could have not given his blessing to it. And by recognizing the schismatic church in Ukraine, and I use church in scare quotes, he gave tacit approval. Had he been a resolute man, he would have told Pompeo and Piat and the other deep staters, no, I'm not going to go along with your plans. I'm sorry, sirs. If you want to go and recognize this charlatan as a legitimate primate of a legitimate church, then that's on you. So enough of that. Let's get back to Bishop Athenagoras. He did the right thing. It shows that he's a stand-up guy. We should applaud him for that. And it could speak well of the future for the Greek Archdiocese. Maybe the other bishops will accept the type of repentance and humility that he is displaying. Okay, now we go on to the toxic maternalism of Madame Bousis. I don't know what it is that allows well-to-do, wealthy women to opine on cultural matters. As you know, much less try to overturn hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, of moral tradition. But here we are. As you all know, Mrs. Bousis is the mother of, I believe, Evan Bousis, one of the pair in this so-called gay marriage, a sham marriage, who, through the illegitimate and evil process of surrogacy, had two children, and I use that in scare quotes as well, who were baptized back in July of 2022 in the Glyfada area of Athens. I think it was Glyfada, by Archbishop Elpidoforos. The scandal, continues to reverberate. Anyway, I understand that she loves her son. I get that. It's not a matter of homosexuals. It's a matter of homosexuality. We love the sinner. We hate the sin, and that goes for every sin, and not just the sexual ones: gluttony, alcoholism, drunkenness, simony, embezzlement, thievery, uh, dare I say even murder. Okay, no one is free from sinfulness. The, the thing is, we need to strive to live a sinless life. I myself have fallen short of that. I get it. But the idea that just because somebody is wealthy, well connected, close to the Archbishop, can take it upon herself to lecture hierarchs and theologians about what the Orthodox Church should be teaching is, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say blasphemous. I'm going to say most unfortunate. So that's all I'm going to say about that. This brings us to the next thing. Uh, what is it with gays in particular? And again, I say last month in December, I believe, late December, two homosexuals in Washington, D.C., in the Senate building in one of the conference rooms were caught in flagrante delicto, as they say. Uh, I thought gay marriage was going to solve this type of thing. I mean, couldn't they get a room? I mean, seriously. Um, Here's the problem with homosexuality, not homosexuals, but homosexuality. Once homosexuality becomes normalized, all the restraints are off. I mean, there's nothing to to compare. There are no more frames of reference of what constitutes appropriate behavior, much less moral behavior. Hence, now we are openly celebrating somewhat going to pedophilia. Okay, and nor should we be surprised because there have been gay pride parades going on in America for close to 30 years, and in every one there has always been a float or a contingent of homosexuals called NAMBLA, the North American Man Boy Love Association. They have they're a proud part of the gay pride movement. Okay, so so let's stop it with this. Well, you know, um, don't accuse homosexuals of being pederasts. Okay, I won't necessarily. However, I will say that there is a higher degree of pedophilia among homosexuals than there are among heterosexuals. There are heterosexuals who are pedophiles. There, I said it. But out of all proportion, the homosexual contingent, this includes lesbians as well as gay men, are far more likely to participate in pedophilia, which is grooming. Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. However, I will say that the uh, the left in Greece is teaming up with the church to delay, if not derail, the upcoming legislation which will make gay marriage legal in Greece. This is interesting. You can read about it up above by clicking on Hellenoscope. And Mr. Nick Stamatakis, our good friend, has done wonderful coverage on all matters of Orthodoxy as well as Hellenism. And you can read for yourself up there. And this kind of gives some hope. I mean, I'm not saying I can't predict that the the conservatives, the trads in Greece, will win this, but I can say that there is a greater likelihood now of this whole brouhaha being derailed. We'll see. Certainly, the Holy Synod of the Church of Crete, which is a semi-autonomous church within the Church of Greece and as part of the eparchy of, and is an eparchy of Constantinople, is getting on board with not gay marriage. In other words, condemning that and gay adoption. Okay, let's go. Obviously, something happened on Monday last week. It was huge. The Golden Dawn won. He trounced Neocon Nikki and Meatball Ron, as he likes to call them. Um, he has so totally discombobulated the deep state because this was a massive win on its own merits that Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out of the race graciously and gave a wonderful speech in endorsing Trump. DeSantis has pulled out of New Hampshire. He knows he's going to lose that. And I think only Nikki Haley is now going to be left in New Hampshire against Trump. And we'll see what happens there. She had somewhat of a better chance there. We'll find out. I know Governor Sununu, the neocon rhino deep stater, who's the governor of New Hampshire, is working overtime to try and help put Nikki over the top. But I have a feeling that the wind is out of her sails. This was huge, and it speaks well of Trump. And I can say honestly that within the recesses of the oligarchy, not the deep state per se, but the oligarchy who controls the deep state, there is talk about, let's just accept it, he's going to win. Let's see if we can get Nikki Haley as his vice president. That would be problematic for me. But they are talking about this. Proof of this is Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon gave a very good little talk about, no more than 4 minutes long, not this last week, in which he castigated the deep state, the oligarchy, the academics, the mainstream media. He castigated them for their dismissiveness of MAGA, the people, the movement, even Trump. He was very, very, I won't say contrite, but he was very sober in his analysis. That there's nothing wrong with MAGA. There's nothing wrong with people who like their guns and their Bibles and who like their borders. Nothing wrong at all. And he said that Trump was not wrong on many of these issues when he was president back in 2017 to 2021. Now, what does this tell me? Well, first, let me say something about Jamie Dimon. As CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he is probably one of the top financiers in the world. I've been told that $9 trillion worth of money goes through JP Morgan Chase on any given day. The only institution that probably is more wealthy or has more wealth going through it is BlackRock. That would make Larry think. Jamie Dimon, incidentally, is his paternal ancestry is Greek. I believe his maternal ancestry is Jewish. Regardless, I think he's acting in a stand-up fashion, and he's telling the oligarchy, let's recalibrate here. Okay, let's leave some of our globalism aside. He even said that about globalism. Anyway, so what this tells me is that he is now one of the oligarchs who is starting to break off from the globalist paradigm and not necessarily getting on the Trump train, but clearing a path so that others will join him should they choose to do so. This tells me that Trump's election is probably inevitable. Okay, so kudos to Jamie Dimon for stating the obvious and for not being a freaking idiot about it. Okay, now there's responses to comments. I didn't do any last week. I apologize. There were just a lot, but I'm going to do one today. Mr. Robert Schnelly wrote a very long, considered, and thoughtful piece about just war theory and my critique that Russia was engaged in a just war, whereas Israel is not. You can read what I wrote in response above. It's long. I'm not going to go into it. However, I am going to spank myself and take myself to task because about just war theory. Now, Orthodox Christianity does not have the idea that just war is a lesser evil, but it is instead, as Father Alexander Webster says, a lesser good. In other words, just as St. Paul said that the king does not hold the sword in vain, but is a terror to evildoers, it is a good for the kings of the world to engage in war if it is in a just cause. We'll get into it. I'll try to get a hold of Father Webster and maybe we can talk about it. But I do understand we don't have a just war theory, but we do have I guess you could say, a just war trajectory. In other words, it's not a lesser evil, but a lesser good. And we'll talk about it. And again, if you want to read what I wrote within the confines of just war theory, to the gentleman that I mentioned earlier, you may do so above. I will say this, that the Russians, in attacking Ukraine, did so because 1/3 of their population was being persecuted. And not just persecuted in the sense that they had legal disabilities, but murdered. 14,000 people in the Donbass had been murdered between 2014 and 2022. Okay. Alrighty. So I do want to say I want to wrap this up. I'm going to try to keep this up under 20 minutes. As you all know, Father Moses Berry passed away last Thursday, and his funeral was on Monday. And I will tell you that I had the pleasure of meeting Father Moses several years ago, and our paths crossed on certain occasions after that, some occasions, not nearly as much as I would have liked. But the thing that just came out of him was unbridled joy. I mean, seriously, he had a hard life. His journey to orthodoxy was not a walk in the park, but he came into orthodoxy, and whatever his past was as a young man was completely overshadowed by the sanctity of his life. And for those of you who are going to go through Ash Grove, Missouri anytime, somewhat in the center of the nation, I suggest you go visit his museum and his parish, which he built on his ancestral farmland. I need to go myself, and by God, I'm going to. Okay. Last thing I want to say is gratitude. Several of you have been so kind to Gail and myself, and exceedingly generous, shall I say. You know who you are. I don't want to embarrass you, but it has been this ministry which we do here is a joy, and it's been called a ministry by several priests, by the way, which totally humbles me. Regardless, we do this out of love. We don't get any money out of it. We don't ask for any money or anything like that. But lately, some of you have been very, very kind to us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we thank you, and God thanks you. Anyway, at least I hope so. Anyway, ciao. Pax vobiscum. Let's try to love one another.